Welcome to Sailing All Blue, a One Piece podcast documenting Matt's journey with One Piece. We will be describing what the show is in more detail further on in this episode, but in short, I have gotten Matt, who has never read One Piece, to read One Piece. And we are documenting it a few chapters at a time. We started our adventure in fall of 2020, so expect some outdated references and nods to releases that were new back then, but not so much now. We hope you enjoy Sailing All Blue. And without further ado, let's set sail.
Here's how the story goes. We're gonna chat about a real stretchy lad who wears a straw hat. In each episode, we're gonna recap. It's Sailing All Blue with Xander and Matt.
Welcome to Sailing All Blue, the podcast where we are setting sail into the world of One Piece. My name is Xander, and here with me is One Piece expert who just read Chapter 1 for the first time, Matt.
Hello.
Matt, how are you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing fine. I just read Chapter 1, and I have not read One Piece before. Not really sure that qualifies me as an expert.
No, you're an expert. Fresh fishy. So let's give some context to our wonderful listeners, as this is our first episode. So Matt has very little to practically no experience with One Piece, where I have read One Piece several times, and I've watched the show a handful of times. Matt, can you tell us like what all you have seen about One Piece? Like, tell us your One Piece experience up to this point, or prior to me forcing you to read Chapter 1.
So back when the show, when the anime got taken over to the US and dubbed, back then, I saw like it on TV and didn't really get into it. And then later, as I became more and more into anime, thanks in no small part to you, or it's just more your fault.
I brought you down the rabbit hole that is Japanimation.
I blame you for a lot of things. Lending me a copy of Jin King of Bandits in middle school is one of them.
Oh fuck, dude, I love that show.
But that's not what we're here for.
We're not here about Jing.
But yeah, I didn't really care for the dub. Same with like Naruto or a lot of shows that ended up dubbed over here in the US.
I can believe it.
Yeah, believe it. Gotta go. So didn't
I
drag me in.
love that One Piece opening. We'll have an episode dedicated to that 4Kids opening, the One Piece rap.
Yeah.
Because I genuinely love it.
One day, but I've seen various memes since then. I've had several people try to get me into it. I at one point tried to sit down and watch the anime for real, watch the Japanese dub, and I made it maybe like 15-20 episodes in. They were like picking up Sanji, and I realized I still wasn't into it. And at that point, I just kind of dropped it and went on my way. I've seen some abridged series and memes and stuff around, but there's actually a lot of One Piece that I don't really know. I recently went through a thing where I watched all of Naruto because, again, I didn't get into that. And it was interesting how big the gap was between what I'd picked up through osmosis and memes and what the show and what the series actually was.
Yeah, I remember you whenever you were going through all of Naruto. I thought you were fucking insane.
It was a journey because it was back when Boruto had just started coming out, and it was, well, I guess so someone had showed me something from Boruto, and I was like, okay, I guess I'll try and see how we get there, because it just been always.
Are you current with Boruto? Do you keep up with it?
No, I actually dropped it about a year ago. When they were in that kind of long filler period with the anime, and I wasn't really reading the manga either. So
never read a chapter, watched an episode of Boruto, only a little bit of Naruto.
but this is a One Piece podcast, and so
This is a One Piece podcast.
So now, since you've asked me to do kind of a similar thing here with One Piece, we're going to document the journey.
Yes, we are. So yeah, we are going to document your journey through One Piece, and I'm so excited. I have been trying to get you to enjoy One Piece for so long, and I'm so sorry that you started with the anime, because rewatching the anime relatively recently, I watched all of up to Alabasta because it got released on Netflix recently, the English dub, which is really good. I like it. I still like the 4Kids dub, at least the actors, not so much like the dub itself, because they get a little silly. They cut out a lot of content because they thought it was a kid's show, and we'll get into why it's not a kid's show. Chapter 1 kind of shows why it's not a kid's show. But yeah, so that's your experience with One Piece, and you don't even fully understand why our podcast is called Sailing All Blue.
No, I have no idea what that's supposed to mean or what the joke is.
Yeah, and I want to set something up for audience. Oh, you're not on social media, are you, Matt?
No, I don't do the socials. You can handle all the socials. If you feel the need to at me, just at Xander. And I can just ignore his DMs complaining about you adding him.
yeah, you can yell at me. You can just add Sailing All Blue on Twitter. But the reason I ask was because, like, do we need to set up a specific hashtag for people to talk to us so you don't get spoiled? But since you're not on Twitter or anything, that's not a real concern.
Yeah, I'll be insulated from the spoils. I still say the £sign, not hashtag. So that tells you a bit of how.
Well, pound is for phone. Hashtag is for tagging.
It's the number sign.
Context of it. It's the number sign. The number. God damn it. I had my boss actually be like, okay, we're going to use like pound as the password for a thing. And I had to ask him, I'm like, because I've had people say pound and they mean exclamation or bang. And so I had to ask him, like, do you mean hashtag pound or bang pound? And he's like, hashtag, why the fuck? What do you mean? I'm like, hey, I just want to make sure you were talking about like the rotary phone, okay? Because I didn't want to like make a password that was wrong in case if he was using pound as exclamation.
Yeah,
because I've had people
etymology of shift 3 aside.
Shift 3 aside. Anyways, we are getting off track. We got to dive into One Piece. So we're going to cover the first chapter today, which is 53 pages. Matt, what's your overall feeling of this chapter before we like dive into what happened in this chapter?
So I will say it was not what I originally expected of the art. I have never seen the manga for One Piece before. I'd only seen the anime before.
Oh.
So I was a little surprised that the art had as much detail as it did. I'd always felt that the anime felt fairly flat, at least at the beginning, in terms of its color scheme and everything. But the manga had a lot of different like shadings and gradients in it that I wasn't expecting. Just from an art perspective.
Chapter 1 is really nice, but I think that can be said for all chapter 1s for most manga, right, where they're a little bit more detailed.
Oh, does it fall off in
I'll
quality?
Tell you this, chapter 2, no, it doesn't drop in quality. It does drop in like that texture, right? Because that's just time that could be spent for making other details, right? Because Oda will jam pack a lot of things in a scene that are just really nice. Like his art is very beautiful and only gets better over time. I think the manga is really good. I think the anime did a disservice for a very long time when it comes to the style of One Piece. The current arc looks really good, but we won't talk about what that arc is yet. But so it wasn't what you expected. Is that like a good thing, a bad thing?
Right. It impressed me more than I guess I hadn't set my expectations very high. I'd come in with just very medium expectations, and it did exceed them, which I guess you would expect for something that is kind of the media juggernaut that is this series. So
the series is media juggernaut.
You know, it's good.
They have like a Gucci deal now.
Oh yeah, Gucci.
Yeah, legitimately.
Yeah. So story wise, I guess I'm not super surprised that it started off with this flashback, but that it started off with a 10-year flashback from kind of nothing. Like, it didn't give you a hook at the beginning of where Luffy was. Like, it gave you the Gold Roger story, and then it gives you 10 years ago Luffy.
Yeah.
But it didn't give us. I was expecting maybe some kind of thing to show, like Luffy doing a lot, like some big hook scene, like going back to the comparison with Boruto. Boruto starts off with the town destroyed, him and this dude on top of a mountain fighting, and they're all like beat up, and then it goes like, okay, record scratch freeze frame, how did we get here? And that's what kind of hooked me there. There wasn't really some big in media res action scene that it cut out for how we got there. It just kind of went to that started off with the history.
Yeah, it starts off with Luffy as a baby boy stabbing himself in the fucking face. That's the first thing we see of Luffy is him stabbing himself in the face.
And everyone yelling at him for being such an idiot. Like, stabbing yourself in the face doesn't make you courageous. Danger doesn't make you courageous.
Yeah, it's so good because we start off with like the classic Gold Roger thing, which rereading this chapter, right? Because I'm so used to the four kids intro, right?
Yeah.
The and like the anime intro where like they say like, oh, you have to set sail into the Grand Line. They don't mention the Grand Line in the first chapter.
No, that was a shock to me as well.
Yeah, I've reread this so many times and it never clicked until like I'm like, okay, I have to read this and like point out things and stuff. He just says search the whole world, and I'm like, wait, Oda, what you? Because I'm so far ahead, I'm just like this little nugget of information for me is like opens up some ideas, some thoughts.
Interesting that changes that. That it becomes a clue. For me, it was just
so many things.
Very interesting. They said why it's right where I left it, which is, I guess, which is also a very weird way to phrase it. Also, for clarity as to what I'm reading the official English translations on Viz's website. So that's what I'm using as the actual like Shonen Jump subscription. So that's what I'm using to read. So if there's ever a question as to what translation I'm using, it's that one.
Yeah, that's the only translation we're using is going to be the official release, particularly the Shonen Jump. I don't know if like the early Viz Media releases for the physical books are any different, because I know they changed Zoro to Zolo later on and republished it because their first editions had Zoro. Their later editions for Volume 1 stuff changed it to Zolo. And I mean, I understand why, because American copyright people like, I'd rather just not deal with like this lawsuit that we will definitely win, but you know, it's a waste of money and time. So it's like, we'll just change it to Zolo. Which is what the 4Kids dub did as well. They call them Zolo and not Zoro. But
I'm going with whatever's currently hosted on their website, on the Viz website. So if there used to be a way that they translate it and they're translated differently now, I don't know, because again, I didn't read it back then. But I didn't go fishing in the bargain bins of the ruins of a Barnes and Noble to find this.
The ruins of a Barnes and Noble.
Yeah, we're recording this podcast in 2020. Ruins of a Barnes and Noble is I would think kind of accurate.
Yeah. But so I love how this starts off, right? So like page 1, we get the nice like little like the nice scenic town, because I love Oda. So Oda's world building is beautiful, Matt. Like, do you get a sense of like scale in location throughout this chapter as we see like buildings and some of the layout of the town?
Not really, actually, because I don't know if we're on we're on an island, but there's also mountains and mountain bandits. So
Yeah,
because I don't really have a good sense of the world.
One Piece.
I guess one of the things I picked up through osmosis is that the world is like a giant ocean. We're in basically water world. So I didn't really get that though from the first chapter. I'm still trying to place where the world is. I'm sure it'll come later, but
yeah, it'll come later. We'll see like a map and stuff. But there are a bunch of islands, but they're all like, sometimes there's like essentially like islands the size of continents, right? Like the world is very big, right? Way bigger than Earth, like physically. And there's just a lot of ocean. So some islands have things like, mountains and like multiple towns and stuff, and we'll see that going later on. But I just love how it opens up, because we see the windmill, and then like later on we get to see the windmill far off in the distance, and I just really like that continuity of being like, there we actually keep seeing the windmill in some scenes. But fucking Luffy stabbing himself in the face, I think is the best way to introduce this character, because that scar under his eye stays for the rest of the series. Every scar every character gets stays. They never go away, which I think is really nice, right? Because I think in most shonen stuff, like they fully heal, right? Their physical scars and beat ups just disappear after a while.
Depends on the shonen, but yes. He also gets his teeth knocked out in the beginning, but I think he regrows it. But it's
he regrows his rubber teeth.
Yeah, it was just believable from the aspect of he was a kid and then he grew up and his adult teeth grew in. But yeah, I didn't know when I saw that. I didn't know if he was gonna also have the teeth out, because I haven't paid attention much to what the characters really look like later on. I know later on Luffy has the X scar on him, but that's
which I'm not going to talk about it. We'll get there.
This podcast is going to be a lot of me saying, man, I wonder what's going to happen with this. And you going, oh, don't you wait. And I'll be like,
just wait, boy. It's going to be this whole podcast is me just like, ooh, you don't even know yet. And it's so refreshing.
We'll see. I may be a little more critical. Mm-hmm. I am kind of looking at this with a little bit of a critical eye. Not like I'm still treating it as what it is, which is a shonen manga series. But if I'm not enjoying something, I'm gonna be vocal about it.
Voice it. There are some things like in One Piece that I'm not like. There's some stuff in certain arcs that I'm like, I don't really care for this, right? But that's more like personal preference. Like it's never bad. There's a few characters where I'm like, oof, Oda, oof. Yeah. But also those characters also make me cry, which fuck. Oda is so good at making characters and making me feel for him. But the one thing I really like, so let's get down into what happens in this chapter. Do you want to talk about it? Do you want to go over like the beats, and we'll cover each I guess scene bit by bit as we go on?
Yeah, so probably a good format going forward is I'll try to badly explain whatever I remember from the chapters that we did, that I read, and then we'll see how that matches up, and you can kind of go, oh, well, maybe you make sure you paid attention to this, or that won't matter, or we can talk about the different pieces of the chapter. But basically the progression of the chapter is we have the Gold Roger scene, then it flashes back to some island harbor where some pirates have been staying. We have the young Monkey D. Luffy, who is hanging out with the pirates, and he's idolizing them. As a show of courage and bravery, he takes a knife and he cuts under his eye and shows like, yeah, I'm so cool. And the pirate's like, you idiot, why? And they all hang out in the tavern, and you've got Shanks, the captain of these pirates, and
the red-haired pirates is what they're called.
I saw him as I thought it said he is the red-haired pirate. Shanks.
He's red-haired Shanks,
Yeah.
and his crew is called the Red-Haired Pirates because
Okay.
they're under Shanks. The pirate crew names are either really cool or kind of like, oh, okay, of course.
Okay. Yeah, Shanks has the iconic straw hat of One Piece, and we have the bandits come down, the mountain bandits come down, kind of swinging around like, yeah, we're really cool. And for some reason, Shanks doesn't really pick a fight with him. He lets them kind of walk all over and leave. He goes, it's really not. He goes, Luffy, it's really not a big deal. Try to teach the lesson that not every fight is worth fighting. But then Shanks leaves, and then the mountain bandits come back. Luffy tries to fight them off, and obviously fails. So when Shanks and his crew returns, they see that Luffy's not at the harbor. He's being beaten up by the bandits. Let's see. Oh, right. After the first time the bandits came, Luffy ate the gum fruit, which is important.
I was about to ask, like, you're missing
I missed,
key piece of information there.
I was trying to remember get the order of those scenes together. It's I didn't take notes on the chapter since it was just one chapter, but it was still 50 pages, which is still a little bit bigger than two chapters. So I'll be better about that next time. We got the gum fruit. We got introduced to the fruit of the devil, and that apparently this means that Luffy can't. His dream of learning to swim to join the pirates, a stipulation that they'd put on him, will never be achieved. But then, yes, back to the bandits come back. Luffy thinks his rubber powers are going to save him, and they don't. As Shanks' crew beats up the mountain bandits, the leader of the bandits kidnaps Luffy and takes him out on a boat, where they're attacked by a sea monster. And Shanks comes and saves the day, losing an arm. And there was a very interesting scene there where Shanks he swims. And I've heard that apparently any devil fruit makes it where you can't swim. So we see that Shanks is able to swim. And Shanks, after the sea monster tries to attack Luffy and takes Shanks' arm instead, Shanks then tells it to leave, stares it down, and the thing just bolts. So more of the
thing just goes, oh.
So we saw Shanks' crew completely destroy the bandits. And Shanks himself got a sense that he is someone to not be messed with, giving a little bit of a the typical shonen, hey, here's the captain guy who's going to be someone to pass in terms of power, showing here's that upper echelon, and you're going to have to train to get there and compete.
Yeah, it's
there.
the Zero of Mega Man.
Yeah.
Right.
The Captain Kuchiki from Bleach, that kind of whole archetype, or Kakashi, like it's those kind of characters. Kakashi is probably Kakashi and Captain Kuchiki from Bleach Kakashi being from Naruto are good examples. And again, going back to the Shonen Big Three. So we see that, and then the pirates go, yeah, we've been here long enough, time for us to leave. And Luffy's very sad, so Shanks says, all right, well, I'll be back one day. Take care of my hat.
No. He I'm going to correct you on this. So he says, hey, this hat means a lot to me. Promise that you'll give it back to me someday. Inviting Luffy to become a pirate, right? Like being like, Luffy, you can become a pirate. Return this hat when you make it, right? Like, come bring me back this hat. So setting a goal for Luffy to for a reason for Luffy to set sail
is give Shanks back his hat.
Yeah, give Shanks back his hat.
Okay, I thought they had said something about coming back, but again, I did promise that I would explain the chapters badly, and I feel like I'm holding to that promise pretty well.
Yeah, you're doing a great job.
Doing a great job explaining it badly.
poorly.
Yeah, doing a great job explaining
Doing
poorly. But yeah, hopefully that wasn't too boring of an explanation. I'll try to make it more exciting next time. The last couple panels we see is then 10 years later. I don't remember if it said present or not. That's something I probably should have paid attention to. But considering
it says 10 years later so we start in the present, right? We start with Luffy as a kid because it doesn't say like 10 years before, right? It's just 10 years later. We start in the present and then we do a time skip. So there's a time skip in chapter 1 by 10 years.
Yeah,
the biggest time skip.
and Luffy is like, yeah, I've been training for this, and finally gets the pistol punch off that he's been trying to do the whole chapter. And failing, and he uses it to punch out the sea monster that is apparently still in the harbor. Like, it ran away from Shanks and then just still came back, and everyone's just been dealing with it being in the harbor. You know, like, you'd think that'd really wreck the local economy, but
I mean, you can't really fuck with sea monsters, man. They're giant, they're powerful.
But,
you gotta use big guns.
Yeah,
gotta be scary like Shanks.
So Luffy punches it out, and he's on his own little dinghy. It's basically like a lifeboat with 2 barrels on it, and him. That's not enough to cross an ocean, Luffy. I'm not sure you understand how sailing works.
Yeah, but that's essentially the chapter. The one thing I want to point out at the end of it, because we're going to go back and kind of talk about certain things in detail that I definitely want to talk about because it's just so cool. We'll get to it. Actually, we'll start from the beginning. So. Yeah, like when the mountains first come in, right? When like Shanks and all his buddies and Luffy are like, having a ball, having a good time, and like these bandits come in and are like, we want wine, give us wine. There isn't any, and Shanks is like, here, you can have like mine, like it's the last one, like I had some of it, but here,
it's
have
not
it.
even.
And,
it was actually a big deal. It wasn't opened yet.
Oh yeah.
It wasn't opened.
Oh, yeah. And he just smashes it.
And the bandit smashes it on him, and it gets the grog on Shanks. And Shanks's thing to Luffy is, as to why he didn't beat up the mountain bandit was, all I did was got some grog on me.
Yeah, I just got some drink on me. It's fine. Like, why get mad over a spilled drink? Luffy's all like, you made him look like you're a weakling. Oh, I get so mad about it. And then that's when it's revealed, like when Shanks grabs his arm and he stretches. When I first saw that, I was like, because in the anime, it's so different. Like we see Luffy eat the fruit on screen, and Shanks is like, and shakes him by his legs, like spit it out, and he slams his face into the floor as his legs stretch. And this one, it's grab his arm and he's stretching. I'm like, it's so different. A lot of like chapter 1 versus not the first episode of One Piece, but the Romance Dawn episode of One Piece, which I think is like episode 4 or something in the actual show. So different, but we get to see some really interesting characters in the background, especially in the pirate crew, which they don't get named, but we get to see some of them, which we do actually get one name. So in one panel, we see like them screaming about like, oh, you couldn't have eaten it. And there's one guy with a headband that says Yasopp on it. He's very important later. He's a very, very cool guy.
Okay, I didn't pay attention to that detail.
There's so many small details, especially like on clothing or in the background.
It definitely seemed like a chapter that was very dense with a lot of foreshadowing pieces. And maybe that's also why there was so much attention to detail with the art. If, as you say, it doesn't really keep up that exact same amount of detail.
In terms of like the texture, right? Like the shading, the like stuff like that, because it becomes like more like dark matte blacks and stuff, right? To keep up with the weekly release schedule. Which has lessened now because Oda now takes breaks, right? It's like week on, week off kind of thing. But we get to see Yasopp, see some of the crew, which we get to see again later on in the show, right? Like even like background characters that you're like, you pay no mention, they have no lines. They come back. So like anything that's on the page in One Piece is not only canon, but can either be really important or it doesn't matter at all. And you can never tell for like hundreds of chapters.
So I'll then give my predictions as to what matters, what doesn't in later chapters, and you let me know what is or isn't.
Pretty
sure
like,
chapter 1 everything is.
Yeah, chapter 1 pretty much a lot of things are, right? It's setting up a lot of the show.
I
And the
would
one thing that-
like to circle back though to something you said though with
let's circle back.
with the anime not doing the this flashback chapter at the start. The anime started in media res, which is what I was expecting.
The anime started off in its own anime original opening.
Oh, that's anime original.
Yes, like so it adapts chapter 2 and 3 differently, right? So in the anime it starts off on a boat. We get to see Nami, who's not even in the manga till like later on in Orange Town, which is I think chapter 7 or 5 or something is when we start that. But it starts off with like Alvida and stuff and going on her boat when really it's Luffy appears on an island, which we'll get to that. We won't. But
I'll see what happens with
different.
chapter 2. But my expectation coming in was also from the brief amount of the anime I had seen had been I'd been expecting it to be he's on a boat fighting some other pirates, and then it's like, well, how did we get here? But instead, it's going chronologically.
Yeah, the show goes very chronologically. Like when we have flashbacks, they're always like typically in the middle of a fight or a very dramatic scene. We'll get the flashback to like why this character is in this position, right? Like what their motivations are typically, and they're either real tragic or very tragic. There's no real happy backstory in any of it. I think Luffy's backstory is the most happy, right? Even though he gets beat up, Shanks's crew murder people in the streets. That's what I want to get to.
They collect the bounty on the mountain bandit.
They collect the bounty. But the one thing I like in the manga that they don't do in the anime is showing how the town just accepts Luffy being a rubber boy. Right, because it's clearly like a bit of time between the first mountain attack and Luffy eating the rubber fruit and then Luffy getting his ass kicked by the bandits, right?
Yeah.
And we see like some of the town, like, you know, he's showing off like he's a rubber boy. He's like, look at this. And the mayor of the town's like being like, you're wanting to become a pirate. Like, you're acting like a fool. Like you know, people are laughing at you. You know, and everybody like in the panel is like, you know, hey, rubber boy, you seem like in a good mood, right? Everybody's being really nice to Luffy, and Luffy's just like going like, rah, like stretching his face and shit. I'm like, that's really nice. And that doesn't show in the anime. And it adds to the world of like, there are strange things in the world of One Piece. So somebody being made of rubber is not something that like, oh, that's weird, but whatever, there's a lot of weird shit in this world.
Yeah, the mountain bandit just
like
goes, "Oh,
bandit.
I guess you're a rubber boy. I guess I'll just sell you to a freak show." That's just a thing, not like, "Oh, you're breaking the laws of physics."
Yeah, because not a lot of people in this world know about devil fruits, right? Outside of like the big Grand Line area, the big set piece of the world. Outside of it, like devil fruits are practically just myth and legend, right? A lot of people like
I don't know that. I don't have that context. That was one thing
I'm
where
giving you that context because we don't get that context for so long, because we're like, why is everyone so shocked about this? And it's because like, you know, devil fruit, like no one knows what a devil fruit is at the time.
So to give kind of my expectations was I thought devil fruits would be more of a known thing. And so I was also very interested that the translation on the first chapter was fruit of the devil.
Yeah, it is.
And I guess I had a similar thing when I went through Naruto the first time, was I didn't realize was like everyone a ninja or not. And I didn't really have that context going in. And it took a little bit for me to realize that no, it's only some people can be ninjas. You needed to have the ability to use chakra and all that, which is because Naruto is actually about headband wizards. But yeah, so it's a similar difference here where I'm not sure about just from what I've read and based on what I had picked up from the show was I didn't know how prevalent knowledges of devil fruits are. The scale of the world and the scale of the different islands is something that hasn't really been made clear to me yet.
Yeah,
And I know
which
it'll
we'll
come,
get to it.
but it's
Yeah.
to show like where I am right now. That's not something I
Mhm.
really have a good sense of. So it is actually news and surprising to me that not everyone knows about devil fruits.
Yeah, and it's very exciting because whenever we meet more devil fruit users, they're always such very cool and sometimes unique. Some of them are like, oh, okay, yeah, this is this is clearly like this is a classic superpower kind of thing, and then others like this is very creative, especially like how Luffy uses his devil fruit later on. Gets very creative, and I did like the foreshadowing of like, in like the beginning of the chapter, right? He's like, my fist will be as strong as a pistol, and then at the end he he does his gum pistol, and I was like, yes, so hype, right? So Luffy gets creative with some of it. We'll see more of that in later chapters.
Yeah, I wouldn't
But the
really
one thing
call that. I wouldn't really
Mhm.
call that A+ foreshadowing, since it's naming the main character's
A+.
special move in the opening chapter, and he uses it.
Yeah,
in
but seeing it pay off, right? Like that's A+. Like seeing it pay off, right? Like you're like, oh, I want to be as strong as a pistol. And the fact
maybe this
just
is
look-
where I'm a little harsher than you. I just give it
Yeah.
the B, the B+, the
B+.
acceptable. Like, yes, this you set it up and you executed it, and you met expectations.
Yeah, you met the expectations that you set. Yeah, it's very much like, oh yeah, we knew this was going to happen. We knew this was coming.
Yeah.
I just like how Luffy just constantly calls out his attacks. But we'll see. I'm not going to say it, but it's just very good. But during the second battle, right, with Shanks's crew and stuff, where Shanks gets held at gunpoint by one of the mountain bandits, and like he just asks like the simple questions like, "Are you actually going to use that?" And they're like, "What?" And the guy gets shot. The guy holding the gun to Shanks
No,
gets
he
shot in the
says
face.
you shouldn't point pistols at people. They're dangerous.
Oh yeah, he does, doesn't he?
He does,
I'm
and
thinking
then
of the anime.
it's ironic because then his own first mate is not first mate, but the guy with the food is
yeah, the guy who's just eating a piece of meat on a bone, just like still eating, shooting. Like he's just like, whatever.
He as Shanks says that, he has the pistol to the guy, and then he fires without really hesitating, because the other guy was hesitating, trying to act all big. But the member of Shanks' crew shows he's a pirate, and they go, you're all not fighting fair, and they're like, pirates.
Yeah, we're like, we're pirates. What do you want?
Yeah.
The thing I didn't realize reading like when reading One Piece for the first time, like how much actual blood is in in the manga, because like you see him get shot in the head and you see like the trail of blood leaving his skull, like there's a blood trail. And I'm just like, that's a little graphic. Why did 4Kids pick this up as a kids show?
I mean, for 4Kids, they can just censor it out. I mean, the infamous finger guns from Yu-Gi-Oh.
Finger guns from Yu-Gi-Oh. They changed the characters' skin color. They changed Sanji's smoking into a lollipop.
Yeah,
which they changed smoker cigars into just more smoke.
Yeah.
Oh, you don't know? You'll learn of Smoker. He's great.
Is Smoker not the name of the first mate guy who was smoking in this chapter?
No. He's a character later on.
Okay.
That was a slip up on my end.
So I'd heard the name Smoker before, and I assumed that was the first mate's name, considering in the chapter we just see first mate. In fact, at the end it shows like Shanks's crew, and it shows Shanks and the fat dude
first mate
and first mate. He just has first mate. So I go, okay,
yeah,
I guess he's first mate
for a while.
I guess he's first mate Smoker. That's one of those things where it's like, I'd heard this, and I'm like, I guess I apply it to this, but I don't know yet. So we've explained the chapter poorly, kind of given an oversight on different pieces of it. What's next from here? Where are we sailing off to next?
We're sailing off real quick to talking about the main theme of what One Piece is, because chapter 1 really sums up the biggest theme of One Piece. And do you know what that is?
Adventure?
Adventure is one of them. Yes, adventure is a theme, but the biggest theme in One Piece is freedom, particularly freedom from society. Right? We see that with Shanks and how he just, chills in a town for a year. Right? He's not obligated to go do anything. He just chills and hangs out with this town who's real nice to him. He is free from just essentially just going off angry when someone bashes his drink in his face. He's like, whatever. But he's also free to just kill a man in the street because he's harming his friend Luffy, right? Like, he gets so mad that these bandits are messing with his friend. And that's the big thing, right? Like, Shanks we see as just carefree, like, oh, whatever, I'll get, you could smash food, you could punch me in the gut, you could call me an idiot, whatever. The moment you say one bad thing about my friend, gonna fuck you up, boy. But that's the biggest theme of this chapter, right? Is freedom, which Luffy, kind of is after, right? In the sense of like setting sail, because that's what being a pirate in this world is, right? It's not to be looters and go raid and pillage towns.
Remember, a good pirate never steals.
A good pirate. No, some pirates do. Some pirates do steal, and even Luffy steals, right? Like, he's like, I'm a pirate. I'm going to take this. I want this.
Sorry, that was a Jake and the Neverland Pirates reference. There's the Disney show. They have lessons for kids, but they have some kid pirates in Neverland, the Peter Pan world, and they have all these advice pieces. And there's one that kind of there's one that gets circulated around a lot. Remember, a good pirate never steals, because it's all done as like a kind of sailor says type thing. A good pirate always cleans up their room. It's like, no, not really. It's a good try though.
Pirates are messy.
It's kind of that whole romanticization of the pirate that they tried to do at the beginning of Pirates of the Caribbean and kept flip-flopping on over the series. That's a different thing to talk about though, is how criminally underrated the later Pirates of the Caribbean movies are.
What do you mean criminally underrated? As in, like, are they good? Because I stopped at World's End. Is that 4? I don't know which one that is.
That's 4, and 4 is definitely underrated. But that's not what this podcast is. This podcast is about a different long-running pirate series that needs a lot more Johnny Depp and Orlando Bloom.
God damn it.
There's not enough Johnny Depp and Orlando Bloom in One Piece. I would like to make that formal complaint. And no Keira.
There's not enough.
The real crime is no Keira Knightley. That's the real crime here.
I mean, well, you get to see Nami and then Robin. Robin's the best.
Can either of them be played by Keira Knightley? I'll take that as a no.
I'm thinking really hard. I'm not going to say no because she's a good actress.
So this is what we found. What we really need is a recreation of One Piece, but with the cast of the first couple Pirates of the Caribbean movies.
Oh, that's where we're going to end it, with that beautiful imagery. Next time we set sail, we're going to meet Toby, the best boy, the best boy.
Oh, he's not
best
anime
character.
Original?
No, he's not. Toby's not anime original.
Oh, so what's my homework here? What are the chapters that I need to read?
So your homework, Matt, is chapters 2 through 7, where we're going to meet some good friends. We're going to meet some great friends in this adventure.
Oh, okay. They'll be our friends, our comrades, our crew,
our Nakama. You're gonna hear Nakama a lot in this series and in the One Piece community if you have not heard it already.
I have heard Nakama's a bit of a meme in there. I wonder.
It's very good.
I don't know if the Viz translation will just straight translate it. I'm one of those people where I prefer certain words, and that's one of those where it's like, well, not really, not always Nakama, really. I'm one of those people where I really like having like the honorifics still on, and this doesn't keep the honorifics. So I don't know if it'll keep Nakama either. So I don't know if I'll notice it or not.
Just wait till we get to later chapters, because remember, this is a fantasy world.
Mhm.
There are no honorifics for some, except for there are certain characters. Well, but that's the future. I'm getting ahead of myself. But let's set sail to the All Blue map. Thank you all for setting sail with us into the world of One Piece. If you like to keep up to date on releases and what the current chapter assignments are, be sure to follow us on Twitter at Sailing All Blue. And we'd like to give special thanks to my good friend Birdie for composing our wonderful, amazing intro. To check out more of Birdie's amazing music, be sure to follow them on Twitter at HeyIt'sBirdie and check out their works on Spotify. I'm a big fan of the album VIMP.